barbecue.
It's okay.
From the neighbors.
Oh, from the neighbors. He's not gonna even vote.
Oh, no.
Oh, there we go.
Okay.
There we go.
The Wednesday, December 18th, 2024 meeting of the Sugarland Development Corporation is called to order.
Call to order the December 18th, 2024 meeting of Sugarland 4B Corporation, meeting to order. Do we have any public comments? Close the public comment session. And then we'll move to the joint workshop and review and discussion on Lou Hammond proposal for Sugarland Office of Economic Development and Tourism fiscal year 2025 Public Relations Marketing Program. Gordon Cutler will lead the program.
Hey, my name is Allison Brooks. I'm the Assistant Director of Tourism. We have Jordan Cutler, our Senior Marketing Manager, with us. She oversees the marketing efforts for tourism, economic development, and redevelopment, and she'll introduce.
Good morning, or good afternoon, everyone. How are y'all doing? So I am going to talk through our public relations firm. So just to give you some context, again, I manage the marketing and PR for economic development, tourism, and redevelopment. And when I came on, we were talking to our public relations firm and our marketing strategies that we have, and we're figuring out the way to best approach the PR firm that we had, and the contract was scheduled to be renewed. And so we sat down with the economic development team and the tourism team and redevelopment team, and identified that we needed to issue a new PR firm, a new PR RFP, excuse me. And so in September of 2024, we issued an RFP. We had a public relations firm that was already intact, and they had been working with us for the past year. But when we approached that the decision that we needed a new firm, we did so with two goals in mind. One was to redefine the scope to be solely public relations. So prior to that, the firm that we had was Violet PR. Some of you may be familiar with them. And they were really asked to do all PR, marketing, and advertising. So essentially, they were hired to be a full marketing agency, not just public relations. So our team sat down and identified that we wanted to redefine that scope. And then the second goal. The second goal was to receive competitive bids so that we could reduce those vendor costs with that firm. Once again, they were hired to be a full service marketing agency. And so with that, we wanted to reduce the cost and solely focus them on public relations. And so within that redefined scope, we really had two priorities that we wanted to target with the public relations. One was to create a unified voice and message. And so initially, the public relations firm that we had prior was solely focused on redevelopment and economic development. But a lot of the projects that we do in eco-dev, tourism, and redevelopment are so intertwined. We're talking about quality of life. We're talking about our small businesses that impact our Visit Sugarland brand. And so with that, we wanted to integrate tourism into that public relations scope. And previously it was not. And so as we looked to that, we wanted to create a unified narrative and a unified message so that when we're pitching, we're doing so with one voice, with one firm, and one narrative that represents all three entities. And then once again, we wanted to reduce the scope. So with that, in the PR RFP that we issued, we eliminated advertising, we eliminated digital marketing and social media from that and moved to in-house. Just to give you a quick breakdown of what that looks like, differences between PR, digital marketing, and advertising. So advertising is a lot of paid work. So a lot of it is a paid approach. That's with SEO and SEM, which is usually when you're searching on Google or things like that, the keywords that you type, those are paid words that you can use to find websites. So for instance, if you're looking for a brewery, you may type that in your Google search. And as an entity, we can pay to make sure that our site ranks high when people are searching for that. Out-of-home advertising, of course, is the billboards that you see, kiosks, things like that. And once again, that's a very paid approach. On digital marketing, we have our website. So we currently have our Sugarland Economic Development site and our Visit Sugarland tourism brand. And so the management of those all falls under with digital marketing, our newsletters that we send out, our email marketing. And then once again, our social media management, we have Visit Sugarland platforms on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and LinkedIn. And then for our economic development brand, we have a LinkedIn platform. And so then public relations is media pitching. So of course, those media outlets that we're securing thought leadership, how we can insert Sugar Land into the conversation about various projects and development work that's going on. And then fam tours is when we invite media to come and visit Sugar Land and invite them to go on pre-planned itineraries essentially to tour Sugar Land in person and really get a feel for it. A lot of times that in our PR firm, we'll kind of touch on that. It's really targeted approach. So we'll identify a particular message that we want to have and work with that work with that media outlet, to make sure that that story is well executed. And so with these three different things, again, digital marketing and advertising, everything that's listed under those with that redefined scope will fall in-house. And then public relations will be the firm that we are looking to hire. And so you may ask, like, what is the purpose of public relations and how does it differ in all of these different things? So we just pulled some quick stats to share with you guys. We pulled some stats from Nielsen and the Data and Marketing Association, and it found that public relations is 90% more effective than advertising. Like I said, advertising is a very paid approach. So when you're as a consumer, you were thinking about, what the advertisements that you see on television and things like that. A lot of times your first instinct is to swipe to the next channel or click next. And so as a consumer, public relations is really just storytelling. And we identified that with the three entities that we have, we really need to do a better job at telling Sugar Land stories. We have a lot of great assets and hidden gems in this city and projects that we're working on, and helping us get that story across to different audiences, different cities within the nation is a priority. So when we issued the PR RFP, we did receive 6 bids from top firms that represent economic development entities. Our RFP max budget was $140,000. And just for some context, the firm that we had previously, once again with the full marketing agency, that was at $257,000. So we reduced significantly that scope to just prioritize public relations. So with that, we interviewed those 6 firms and ultimately came out with Lou Hammond being the top choice. With that, their proposal was $120,000. And that cost would be split 3 ways between our tourism hot fund and then 4A and 4B. So the total 4A and 4B amount would be $80,000. And then their key focus areas are, again, some of the ones that I mentioned in public relations that focus on PR, media, mission and fam tours, securing regional and national media relations, and then once again, inserting us as a thought leader while securing some awards and accolades for the city. So before we go forward, I want to introduce Lou Hammond. They're going to talk a lot about the scope that we hired them to do or are looking to hire them to do, and some of the stories and projects that they'll work on when we get this contract approved. I'm sorry.
First, I want to say thank you very much for inviting us to speak to you today and for entertaining our bid. We're thrilled with what we've been able to see. We've spent some time with your team yesterday and this morning, getting to know your businesses and seeing what everybody is so excited about. And it is very evident why Sugar Land is the place to be and why there is so much excitement. So thank you. We'll tell you a little bit about our agency, a little bit about how we work, how we measure our work, some ideas about how we would work together, and some recent coverage. My name is Meg Lewis. I'm a senior vice president in our Charleston office of Lou Hammond Group. My background is with a chamber of commerce that did combined economic development and tourism. I did that for about 7 years as the chief communications officer there. Prior to that, in tourism for several years. And I've been at Lou Hammond Group for about 3 years as well, working with clients that do both economic development and tourism.
My name is Kelsey Donnelly. I'm the vice president, also in the Charleston office of Lou Hammond Group. I've been doing this for about 12 years now. Before I joined Lou Hammond Group, I've been with them for about 7 years. I worked in South Florida for an agency where I really specialized in luxury real estate development and mixed use development.
And it's just a little background about Lou Hammond Group. We are a PR firm, so we do not do creative, we do not do advertising. We are focused on media relations, proactive media relations. Our history is that we were founded by a very proud fifth-generation Texan, Lou Hammond. She started the company around 40 years ago. She had a very distinguished career with Pan Am and began the company in New York. We now have offices all around the country. Texas is a very important market for many of our clients for obvious reasons. So we have great relationships with the media in this market as well.
Like Meg said, we've been around 4 decades. It's actually 41 years this December. We have 7 offices across the country, as far west as Denver. We have just about client to employee ratio 1-to-1, about 50 clients and 45 employees.
And this is just a quick snapshot of our current clients. You'll see a large representation of destinations, hospitality and cruise clients, real estate, economic development, and lifestyle. Some of those are attractions, products, services.
Now, our goal is really to support your team and show Sugarland and its spokespersons as a thought leader in redevelopment, development, and tourism, and to do so using a unified voice with very measurable goals.
And this is really an explanation of our process of setting goals, how we measure our results. What you'll see here, and I think some of this might have been in a packet or we can make it available to you. We're not going to read every single word of this, but a few concepts here. We'll set a goal, for example, to enhance and further your reputation as a vibrant, innovative, and desirable destination for business and for residents and visitors. That would be our goal. And then our way of measuring that success is we would set a goal to achieve the majority of your media placement in top tier targeted outlets. We work on that list with your team to identify that we are reaching the right readers, the right audiences, and that majority of that coverage will be in the geographic markets that you want to reach.
And then that second goal might be what I was touching on in the previous slide, which is to position Sugarland as a thought leader in those 3 realms. So development, economic development, and tourism, by showing and highlighting some of those intentional investments and policy changes. And we would aim to do that through quarterly byline articles, 3 annual speaking opportunities on relevant topics a year, and then making sure at least 25% of all media coverage includes a quote from a Sugarland leader.
Yeah, and a third example of that goes to what Jordan was saying about storytelling. The stories are really with you as leaders and with your businesses and innovators, the residents, the success stories. So what we would want to do here is to make 25% of the feature stories that we achieve for you include some of those individuals and stories. And that anytime we bring media into the market, we're making sure that there's at least one-on-one conversation with those stakeholders. And this is also an overview of our scope of work. Again, don't want to read every single word to you, but the first 3 here really relate to our media relations activity, from literally writing and delivering press releases, developing messaging, providing you back with the clips, media relations, direct conversations with journalists that we have identified that are excellent placement for you, coordinating press trips, whether those are groups, which we call familiarization or FAM trips, or individual visits. And we've set some metrics to that we would like to do in terms of how many people we want to bring in. An awards program that Kelsey will tell you more about, but that's proactively achieving awards and accolades that are done as a process of submission rather than just real estate data that's compiled. And then crisis communications. We know that you and your team fully have emergency communications under control. This really is more about creating messaging around issues and projects to help communicate to the community that this is where you want to go. This is part of a visionary direction. Stakeholder engagement, which is really about showing your businesses and your community how you're working for them through sharing opportunities to be featured as those come through from media, as well as sharing back the coverage that occurs. Strategic partnerships that allow you to joint promote with other brands and opportunities. Thought leadership, as we've discussed, and of course our reporting. Anytime we achieve coverage, that's going to be shared back with you immediately. And then every month we do a customized dashboard that gives you year-to-date media impressions, the ad equivalency for that, and we track that against those metrics that we've set, the KPIs at the beginning of the year.
And then thematic arcs are Lou Hammond Group's way of telling your story in a more editorial tone for various target audiences. So I won't read through all of these. We went ahead and drafted 3 examples of what we think the thematic arcs might look like. The first one speaks to economic development. The second one really highlights the tourism initiatives. And then the third one highlights redevelopment and how Sugar Land is really leading in that sphere.
And this is just a glimpse of our established media contacts, a very big overview. These on the right-hand side are some of the outlets that we think would be very aligned for your messaging and opportunities. On the left-hand side, you'll see some journalists that we work with very frequently and examples of how we might pitch to them. That really is where we interpret that narrative arc into an opportunity to tell the story directly with their outlet. We focus on quality over quantity. We're not blast pitching. We're identifying the right person at the right time to tell your story and crafting a pitch directly to that. And across the agency, all of our offices, we're consuming around 400 outlets every day, identifying these writers, identifying the outlets, watching the trends, and sharing them with each other.
And then here's an overview of just recent media placements from the agency. This first slide focuses only on business and real estate development. You'll see some of these outlets, they focus on consumer facing, and then they're also like Multifamily Dive is more of an industry publication. So really running the gamut there. And then these next 2 slides are tourism focused. So just sort of an example of what we do for our clients each and every day.
And we wanted to share a few creative ideas, just a couple. This will demonstrate how we work across multiple platforms to tell your story. So the first is focused on tourism and what we call the "and" factor that we see in Sugar Land, because you are so much more than the best suburb of Houston, so much more. And there's much more to discover. So we would like to set up a familiarization tour where we bring in journalists to have an experience, an anchor experience, which might be a concert or a major festival, and then add to that, spending some time in your parks, dining, retail at town center, just really getting to know more of what there is to do here in Sugar Land, and hopefully extending those stays into multiple nights. And then that would also be paired up with a targeted pitching series where you can see some of the examples of headlines that we might hope to see from that, and the targeted outlets we would want to distribute those to.
And then another campaign idea we had originally submitted was to partner with a professional media outlet to produce a series of panel events right here in Sugar Land, highlighting your leadership and their expertise. The themes of that might be the future of master plan communities. It might also touch on effective programs to spur development and attract top tier talent.
And then just a little bit of information about how we host media. We don't just bring people in and turn them loose. And we also don't make it your team's problem when they're here. We work hard to identify exactly the right people to bring in. We help craft the story and know really what they want to write about before they show up. We work with your team to develop a very detailed itinerary that showcases the destination. And with a group, we typically send a team member to accompany that to handle the logistics and allow everyone to keep doing their job while we have media in town. And then after the visit, we spend time with the journalists, making sure they have all the resources and assets that they need. If they need additional conversations with subjects for interviews, if they need additional images, we fact check. And then once these stories are published, we share those back with you so that you can share them with your partners.
And I touched on a little bit before, but we would employ a really robust awards program. So what that looks like is us tracking and managing every aspect of that nomination. Like she said before, this is not just a real estate company compiling available data. This is us really digging into that nomination, submitting relevant information, and tracking that all the way through. You can see on the right just a sampling of targeted awards. So USA Today 10 Best, Inc. Best Workplaces, Best Workplaces for Innovators, South's Best, things like that, that really require quite a bit of time and dedication to those nominations.
And here, before we close, I wanted to just share a couple of examples of recent work, some case studies. The first here being Baton Rouge. We've been working with them for about a year and have been able to see some immediate results. We are working with both Visit Baton Rouge and their chamber. They are relaunching their brand as a hub for young professionals to start their families. And we're doing that by highlighting their culinary scene, their local culture, and attractors like LSU that are relevant to business and career. And we've been able to secure coverage in Forbes, Fortune, Thrillist, Essence, and Urban Living, among others, already just in the first year. And this next one is a really interesting and a much longer relationship. Beginning around 2018, Montgomery, Alabama wanted to be repositioned as a progressive New South city. This was on the eve of the opening of a major tourism destination that centers around civil rights. They had a big message to shift there. And so we took that along with a very successful downtown redevelopment project and a burgeoning smart city initiative. And we were able to secure coverage in the Washington Post, Wall Street Journal, New York Times, and even secured a Site Selection Magazine top metro region designation for them. And this partnership continues today. In 2023, we launched a $90 million outdoor lifestyle destination, which is really a catalytic development meant to revitalize an entire new area of the city. And we were able to do that and earned a Time Best Places recognition this year for that.
You tell that's Meg's hometown. So we also work to promote Nexton, which is a massive master plan community about 25 miles north of Charleston, and have really been very successful in positioning it as the region's next job center. And we do that through a very aggressive media relations, thought leadership, and awards campaign. The results of these campaigns have been sort of more tangible. So they have 0 office vacancies, record-setting residential sales, and then more intangible. So in 2023, they were named the #1 master plan community of the year. That certainly drives interest, growth from employers. They've attracted new businesses, and then they've also been featured throughout national and regional media.
And then our final example, sorry, I'm jumping ahead of you. Go ahead.
So we also work to promote Cobb County, which we've really positioned as North Atlanta. And what we always say is where the action happens, they're home to the Atlanta Braves. So we've done this through a very aggressive media relations campaign. The result of this has really been great interest by national and regional media. And then they've also seen an 8.6 increase in 2023 of year-over-year tax revenues. So a real success story for them.
And then our final example is Columbus, Ohio. We began this relationship by launching the Junto Hotel, which was their first independent lifestyle hotel. It was in an area called the Peninsula neighborhood. It was adjacent to a very booming arts district. And the proactive media work that we did, the thought leadership that we did around that has earned it the moniker of Columbus's next great neighborhood. This has generated a lot of momentum that has definitely attracted new business and new residents. So thank you again. We'd love to answer your questions, provide any different additional information that you might need.
Questions, anyone? Hey, thank you, Kelsey and Megan and Jordan. Appreciate you coming here today.
Thank you for being here. Our pleasure.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, at this time, we need a motion to adjourn SLDC.
So moved.
Okay. All right, SLDC is adjourned.
That's just me, right?
I don't know. I can't
I
remember.
don't think Carol's, you and I are,
Yes.
we're SLDC.
Yes.
Yeah. Yes. You want to- you and I are not-
You're all welcome to stick around.
I love it. I got other things I can do. Wait, aren't you still for me?
What's that? You're not still 4B?
See, back there's some very good.
Well, I thought it was supposed to be upstairs. I can wait. Sorry. You can do it without you, man.
All right, we'll move on to the next workshop. This is for the Sugarland 4B Corporation review and discussion of fiscal year 2005 Fostering Unique Neighborhood Grant Program applications. John will lead us through this. And before we start that, I want to introduce Mary Ryder. She's our newest board member. Welcome, Mary.
Hi, everybody. I'm very excited to present to you all today because we actually received 5 applications, 5 eligible applications.
Wow.
Sugarland 4B Corporation's Fostering Unique Neighborhoods program. This is our capital improvement project program that we offer to the HOAs. But those 5 eligible projects total about $1.1 million of improvement costs. So really great showing from our HOAs. Before I get started, I want, if you are an applicant, applying for the SL4B fund grant, sitting in the back of the room, if you could please stand up and then introduce your name as well as the organization that you're representing.
Michael Walker, I'm with the New Territory Residential Community Association. I'm the executive director, and we're here to present.
I'm Jerry Olkey with Imperial HOA. I'm the president of the HOA.
I'm Nancy Dunham. I'm with the Settlers Park HOA. I'm a board member with them.
I'm Laura Tate with the Community Association of the Highlands. I'm the community manager.
The only group that's not present today is Sugar Creek HOA, who the representative fell ill, so she's not able to be here today. In front of you, I have two handouts that I just passed out. One is the copy of the presentation. So while I present these applications, if you need to flip through any of them or look at a certain part at more detail, that's available to you. There's also two binders at the table with the full applications that was included in the pre-read that was sent to you. So if you need to look at any application at a greater level of detail, that's there as well. But I also included a condensed version of those applications. I highly recommend that you look at that. If you haven't read it already, it includes the write-ups done by each of the HOAs, which has, the statement of need and why their justification for each of their projects. So feel free to look at that while I present. But all right, I guess we'll get started. Today's agenda, I'll be reviewing the basics about the grant program, purpose and funding, program goals, and project requirements and criteria. I'll then go over the 5 applications that we received that were eligible. I'll then go over staff's recommendations as to which projects should be that we're recommending as staff to move forward for approval in January, as well as the ineligible applications and details about those. And then at the very end, we can have a board discussion and a recommendation. So first, real quick about the SL4B's Fostering Unique Neighborhoods Grant Program. The purpose of this program is to empower our community groups to revitalize and create unique places that reflect the distinct character of each neighborhood or area of commerce. These partnerships will promote economic development and workforce retention and attraction through the transformative power of placemaking, mobility, and beautification that will enhance the quality of life for the community. Projects for project fundings, requests for SL4B funding must be in the lesser amount of 50% of the project's costs or up to $75,000. This year, we increased the budget for this capital improvement project program to $300,000. In previous years, it was only $200,000. Here are some of the program rules as well. Whenever staff look at all of these applications initially and score them, we had a staff review committee that did this. They actually used these program goals to score some of our programs. 1, beautify Sugar Land's neighborhoods and areas of commerce. 2, promote economic development. 3, develop public spaces. 4, create inviting outdoor spaces. 5, preserve and celebrate the distinct character of Sugar Land's single-family neighborhoods. And 5, innovate with transformative public projects that the city hasn't seen before. So finally, last slide here, fund grant projects must comply with the program policy and state eligibility requirements for 4B funding. Qualifying project types are street and traffic improvements and site improvements, parks and recreation improvements, cultural arts, performing arts, and museums. And maintenance projects or maintenance related items are not considered qualifying. Before I go to the next bullet here, all of the projects in front of you were deemed by the board as eligible to these standards, so you don't have to figure that out. Qualifying projects must be located on public property or private property. The board determines that private ownership does not diminish or change the public benefit of the project. And all of these projects are located on major arterial roads, or major thoroughfare, excuse me. A copy of the resolution is available in the binders and online. And now for a review of the applications. We'll start with Community Association of the Highlands. Proposed is the name of the project is Williams Trace Community Park Rehabilitation. It includes the removal of the current play structure and borders, and installation of new play structures and equipment. Proposes a multi-use play structure with a new shade, swing set, 2 spring riders, merry-go-round, and a Littlefield library. The total estimated project cost is about $148,000, and requested from the SL4B is $74,219.25. This is located at 1910 Williams Trace. More pictures here of the equipment that would be added, as well as the shade structure. So there's that. Project's located at 1910 Williams Trace. And that's the end of the first application right there. And if you would be willing to just write down, if you have any specific questions about any project, feel free to write them down and we can get to them. Next is Sugar Creek Homes Association. Proposed is the phase 2 of their Country Club Median Walkways project. You may recall that last year in fiscal year 23, they actually completed a phase 1 of this project on Country Club Boulevard, and proposed a very similar project, 4 feet wide crushed granite path with adjusted irrigation to continue the walkway on Country Club Boulevard. The total project cost here would be about $73,000, and requested from the 4B Corporation is $36,939.85. Some of the pictures you can see on the slide here are the completed Esplanade walkways that are on Country Club Boulevard. I wanted to read a part of their application as well. We have received an overwhelming response to the first phase of this project. Our community has reached out, wondering when we can install more of the paths throughout the subdivision. We have spotted children on bicycles, elderly reading on the bench, residents walking dogs, and residents stopping to visit with each other. Again, the pathways serve as a safety measure because we don't have sidewalks, and it provides a source of beauty and character for our neighborhood. Here's the existing conditions of the medians where they would like to install the Esplanade. And here's a map that they provided of phase 2, which is farther up Country Club Boulevard. We actually helped them make a map. Here's phase 1 that was completed last year in fiscal year 24. And phase 2 is farther up the road in Country Club Boulevard and some of those medians up there. There's actually more dots that are, I think, covered by the preview up here for Zoom. So, and so that's that project. Third, we have Settlers Park Homeowners Association. The name of this project is Brick Wall Section 2. It would be located on Settlers Way Boulevard, between Greenfields Drive and Austin Parkway. The total project cost of this wall project is $173,013.71. This includes costs related to their masonry and supplies on their previously approved wall project that did not complete. And I'll expand on this in a second. Requested from the 4B is $70,004.58, and the applicant is requesting reimbursement for new expenses only related to this new perimeter wall project. Now, I need to explain this one a little further, and this is also in their application too, if you need to read along. In 2020/2021, that fiscal year cycle for this program, the 4B board actually approved a previous wall project from Settlers Park HOA. These wall projects take a considerable amount of time because you have to get homeowner consents, and you have to, and consents from the utility companies as well. The city originally approved the project, and the expected reimbursement was about $63,000. When they started the project over the next few years, their masonry company that was responsible for building this fence was digging after getting an all clear from the line locators. And once digging started, it was found that there were Comcast lines right where they wanted. And I don't have imagery of where this fence was going to be, but the existing wooden fence there, it's right there. There's not a lot of space. The city sidewalk is right next to it, and then homeowners' property is right on the other side. And so essentially, they ran into Comcast lines. They couldn't build this wall. Their next option was to go up for homeowner consents to try to shift the wall onto homeowners' property. They were not able to get all the homeowners' consents. They were missing just a few. And then the final alternative to that was to see if the city would be willing to remove its sidewalks so they could build their community fence, which the city deemed was not a viable option for the HOA. And so since this previously approved joint CIP project was not able to be completed, they bought a lot of brick that's sitting out in the open, deteriorating, and would be going to waste if they're not able to implement and install a new wall on an easier section. And as a result, Settlers Park wants to use these materials on the new brick wall project. And so knowing that the 4B can't reimburse the HOA for materials that it had already purchased, the HOA is actually requesting for 100% of the new project costs to help offset the original expenses for this failed wall project in fiscal year 21. And so we're bringing it forward in an effort to be a good partner to them. Right. Some more details on the wall. So you saw the previous the existing wall right there, which is a wood fence. You know, what they're proposing a brick wall, and whenever you build these brick walls, you have to dig pretty deep. And the section that they're installing this brick wall on is in a much easier section to do a wall. You can see that there's a lot of space right here between the fence and the sidewalk. So if anything needs to shift anywhere, it can shift more easily than their original wall project. Here's a map. It would be located on Settlers Way Boulevard between Austin Parkway and Greenfields Drive. This would involve getting a consent to encroach from 11 homeowners. And that's the end of that project. Number 4, we have new territory. The name of the project is Grand Parkway Monument Renovation. The total project cost is $442,750. This includes costs related to the demolition, paving, adjustment, retaining wall, veneer, tower feature, lettering and signage, electrical, and a monument water feature. Request from the 4B is $75,000. I wanted to read part of their application. They really emphasize in their application that this neighborhood signage was a big pillar of the community, especially as new territory first started. You had a lot of folks taking pictures here for graduation, prom, and proposals. And around 2016, the Grand Parkway changed a lot with the way that they did the exits and added new lanes. And a lot of the concrete barriers that were added to the Grand Parkway ended up blocking the sign as well. And so the new design would include new water features. It would be made a lot higher, so it would be visible from the Grand Parkway. The design also includes new lighting, LED lighting, fountain lighting, and it's just an overall kind of higher kind of design. Once complete, they would have a phase 2 of this project that would incorporate a new walking trail and a gazebo for residents to enjoy the view. And the plans is to complete this by January 2025 if approved, and construction should start as early as February and March. The project is expected to take 4 to 6 months total. So here's a picture of the existing conditions of that neighborhood sign. It's partially viewable from the Grand Parkway, as you can see there. I'll go to the last application, which is Imperial Homeowners Association. The name of their project is Imperial Roundabout Renovation. The total project cost is $215,734. It includes costs related to the renovation of their fountain at the Imperial Roundabout and at the intersection of Imperial Boulevard and Stadium Drive. In their application, they talk about how this roundabout and the fountain that exists there has sustained heavy damage due to recent weather events in recent years, with 22 pipe breaks underneath the fountain foundation. And damage to the roadway and landscaping as well. The proposed are site improvements to make the fountain also easier to maintain and repair while staying close to the original design. If you look at their application, they actually researched a lot of alternate design options for this roundabout. They consider doing a central arc piece. They consider doing a waterfall type feature, but what they landed on is this more sustainable concept that would be easier to maintain from and a maintenance cost perspective as well in the long term. They also have a commitment from the Imperial Redevelopment District of $132,000 towards this project, and they're requesting $75,000 from the SL4B. The original fountain rendering was included in their application, and you can see that the proposed fountain rendering is very similar to the original design, which is how their HOA wants to move forward. Here's a map of the roundabout. To note is that it's located very close to some of the city's assets, such as the regional airport, as well as the baseball stadium. And with that, staff's recommendation, staff review committee met over all of these projects that we received, and we scored these projects based on how they accomplished their program goals, greatest need and impact. Excuse me. And based on the program budget of $300,000, excuse me. Based on the program budget of $300,000, and the way that these projects were, these 4 projects were recommended by staff to keep us under budget. So proposed is Sugar Creek HOA, Imperial HOA, Settlers Park HOA, and New Territory Residential Community Association. That would have a total project cost of $987,627. And then a dollar amount requested from the 4B under budget of $256K about. All projects were received positive sentiment from the staff review committee. But this one, Community Association of the Highlands scored the lowest. Now, if the board decides that it would like to see all 5 projects move forward, it can. It would just have to you would just have to approve the use of the reserve for opportunities if you wanted all 5 projects to move forward. We also received 2. And I should have reason why. Thanks. Thank you. Oh, you're the best. The staff review committee also deemed the 2 following projects ineligible. Mainly because they were incomplete by the application due date. And Colony Grant HOA actually applied with 2 projects. Those 2 projects were park benches and a waste station replacement project at one of their parks, as well as a playground rehabilitation. Staff reached out to the HOA and we'll work with them to make sure that they apply earlier next year so that it can make the deadline in this competitive grant. And so with that, the next proposed steps before we go into questions, the SL4B, we would like to see the SL4B Board of Directors to provide a recommendation as to which projects should move forward for a funding resolution to be approved at the SL4B meeting in January, on January 15th. And in Q2 of fiscal year 25 and beyond, we would work with the HOAs to execute reimbursement agreements for the approved projects. And all due diligence must be completed prior to the city entering into an agreement with the applicant. So with that, happy to take any questions.
Okay.
Oh.
You will need to I received a conflict disclosure statement, so Mr. Goodrich will need to recuse himself. He actually even needs to leave for the discussion.
Absolutely.
So I can come get you, you can stand up there and when.
All right, we're open to discussion. Stuart?
Wait for Ellen to leave. I don't want him to hear anything. So does anybody know how much we have in reserve for opportunities on roughly?
Yeah, 4 to 5 million.
4 to 5 million. So if we were to go ahead and fund Highlands, it would take $75,000 out. Of course, it would put our total projects up over $1 million, like 1,050, something like that.
Yeah.
I would really like to see, I mean, Highlands went through the whole process and they put in an application that was accepted and it was within the parameters. I would really like to not leave that one out. I don't know how the rest of you feel, but I'd like to leave, I'd like to add them.
Can I piggyback on him?
Sure.
So I agree with you. My only question on the Highlands, to get that done, what's the procurement process? Do we have everything available for them to move forward? And the reason I'm asking is sometimes we don't have it and we can't get it and it falls out of the parameter of the time frame.
I see what you're saying. Before each HOA applies, they provide quotes for each of their improvement projects and they have their quotes ready to go, contractor chosen. They're just waiting for approval of this before they start paying for the project. So they're pretty ready to go.
And move forward
Yes,
with the equipment too.
yes, they have their contractors and it's all in the full applications as well, so that they submitted.
I'm with you.
Go ahead.
So the Settlers Park project, the brick wall, correct me if I'm wrong, did I hear you say that not all homeowners have approved the project yet?
Let me correct myself there or clarify further. On their previous project, which is on a different section of street on what was the name? On Settlers Way Boulevard, that project that failed, that was the section where they weren't able to get all of the homeowners' consents. This is the proposed project is in a totally different section of wall on Settlers Way Boulevard.
Do we have their consent?
No, and the way that it works is after, let's say that the 4B board decided to approve their project, their next step would be, which is, they've already actually started as well, would be to get those homeowners' consents, and the city won't enter into an agreement with them to reimburse their project until they do all of it.
Well, and I know it sounds a little harsh, or maybe I'm going in reverse on this. I would much rather see the playground approved than a brick wall that doesn't even have consent yet. And I understand that you have a process, but you know, we're talking about a brick wall or some kids playing in a playground or doing them all as Stuart suggested, which I'm fine. I just don't like a project that's in front of us that doesn't even have consent. Or we'll end up in the same boat that they were on the last time where they wanted to move forward and they didn't get all, well, I don't even think we should be looking at it without the consent, you know, that's just me.
Excuse me.
Oh,
Am I allowed to ask a question or not?
yes, you may address.
Okay, to address that, number one, the previous fence, I was not on the board at that time, but the previous fence at the beginning had 16 homes that face Sellers Way. 4 of those neighbors refused, because what happened is when they dug, I guess they had clearance, and then when they dug, they found this Comcast line, they had to move it 2 to 3 feet, most likely 3 feet inside of their property. These are those houses that have tiny yards. Before people said absolutely not. And so everything stalled, and then we had an entire board split this past summer. And we're very focused. So they resubmitted this. We had already bought the property. I believe, I don't know, had it actually been approved for the fund grant last time, correct? Is that what you said?
Yes, this was.
It had gone through the approval. Okay, this time, no, there is no encroachment. We have all of the material. We're already a little slower from this process, but we have all the equipment. None of these properties have any encroachment. I've already talked to every homeowner. I live there. My house backs onto it, which was just like the draw. But that they all approve it. They all want it. There's no restriction on that, just so you know.
So we do have consent.
The sign was, I didn't know that we even needed a sign, but I haven't been on this project. I found about this meeting yesterday. But I know that the lady that is normally dealing with our president is out of state. So I believe, I did not realize that we had to have the actual signatures. He can tell us that, but I know that I've personally spoken and I can go get it tomorrow if you want it.
It's part of the process. The city won't formally enter into an agreement with them until we have all the consents from the utility.
I just want to clarify. The projects all make sense, right? But I don't want to miss out on doing a playground for a project that may not get consent. But if we have consent, we just need to know that. That's all.
So I'm new. Can there be a restriction that before it's actually voted on, that the consents be secured and provided as part of the official vote in January?
I'm getting a nod from my legal, but I would, from my recommendation would be, you know, the city won't enter into an agreement to even reimburse this project until they get those consents in the first place. So let's say they don't get the needed consents for this project, then the city won't even enter into an agreement with them, and the 4B won't even be able to fund it, right? And so you could approve it, and if you did approve this project, they would still have to get those consents before the city would reimburse them at all. It kind of solves the problem.
And to Mary's point, I just want to say it again. So let's say we approve the 4 and leave out the 1. Then one of the 4 doesn't get all the consents, and now the 1 got left off for. I don't like that. If we got X, let's spend X. But I don't like the unknown, and I appreciate that she may have the answer, we just don't have it in front of us.
Did I answer your question, Director Ryder? Thank you.
Yeah, on the scoring, y'all said the 1 was the lowest score. I mean, how's the scoring?
Yes, I actually brought the scoring sheet with me, but the scores were very close, like almost like a 2-point difference on some of the projects. Some of the main 3 aspects that these projects report on are one, and there were multiple departments and representatives from various departments from the city that participate in this committee and score the project, so there's less bias there. 1, does it accomplish a program goal? So those program goals I went over at the beginning, they kind of score how much it accomplishes 1 or more of those goals. 2, which project exhibits the greatest need? Greatest need is defined as, you know, eyesores, the most damaged. Was a project approved for that HOA in the last year, right? Are they, and then 3, actually 3 and 4, does the project provide a long-term benefit, right? And then finally, was the application completed on time, which almost all applications were.
Okay, thank you.
We're jumping all over the place.
It's okay.
I'm sorry.
No, you don't have to.
I'm now at Sugar Creek. And can you show me the map?
Yes.
Your map.
Oh, yes.
Okay. There's nobody here from Sugar Creek? No. So why is there a partial missing part there?
The median kind of disconnects, like there's 2 separate medians. You can kind of see it on this one better. There's just not a median there between those two.
Okay, so there's no place to put a side, to continue a sidewalk there.
No, because it's just road and a lot of the residents that live in that community. Or streets that don't have these esplanades just walk on the roads, so.
I just wondered why we weren't. It bothers me there's a gap. I want to put, I was actually gonna suggest we hit the 36,000 and finish the whole thing, or look at that, and that's my question, I think we do the whole thing. But if we can't, that makes sense.
There's no esplanade there.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
Yeah. New territory. I think that's gorgeous. I lived in new territory for a long time and it's much needed. I love it. We learned a lot from Imperial on fountains. Is that sustainable? What's the plumbing on that fountain? Are we gonna have access to any underground plumbing just in case we have to fix it?
I'd like to ask Michael to.
So we've actually called the original designer of this fountain out as part of this project. They've actually gone in already and found all of the old fountain plumbing and everything else. They've already rated it. They've already told us that the small area that needs to be replaced, but everything is still in excellent shape and everything is accessible. There's actually 2 pits that allow us to get to everything we need to.
That's why, that's important.
How did I know you would know the answer to that?
That's what I'm saying.
He knows everything new territory.
Everything.
Can I also say, just as a word, we appreciate everything this community's done and everything the organization's done. This is part of about a $6 or $7 million larger project that's going to be, since new territory was annexed, we're the face of Sugar Land coming in. And so both sides of that work, this project is only $500,000, but we're going to spend about $5 or $6 million on the other side of that bridge at the same time. We want to make sure when people come into this city and come into the community that we stand out. So awesome.
And you're probably saying that because you're proud of your new lid 7 work as well.
We're very happy that the river erosion projects are done.
Yes.
Any other questions on the board? On the work, excuse me.
I wanted to change gears a little bit in regard to the total process. You had 5 available or technically capable projects. Were you disappointed by that from the community? Would you like to see more of them? And if so, how do we get the better message out to get more of these project potentials in?
To be honest, this program has existed. It used to be called the SL4B Joint CIP program since fiscal year 2002. And in those 20 plus years of this program existing, we retooled this program last year to try to incentivize better projects from our HOAs, and because we really want to incentivize transformative projects. But in these last kind of 20 years before we did that retool, we only had maybe $3.7 million worth of improvements in those 20 years. So the fact that this year we received over $1 million of improvements in 1 year was really the record breaker. So we're pretty happy with the applications that were proposed, all 5 of the eligible applications.
Yeah, so, Mr. Chair, would you say that we have a consensus that we would like to fund all 5?
I motion we fund all 5.
I'll second it.
Well, we're not voting till next meeting, right?
We would like some clarification or your direction. That's the word.
Does anyone object to funding all 5? I think then go for it, John.
Any other questions? Thank y'all.
Thanks, John.
All right. We'll move on to the next session, which is the election of officers. Yeah.
I'm sorry, I believe the next item is the orientation.
Oh, okay. Sorry about that. I'm trying to skip ahead. Review and discuss on purpose, roles, responsibilities, and functions of the Sugar Land 4B Corporation. And Anna Rodriguez will lead us through this refresher course.
Just a quick refresher. So today we're going to be doing your FY25 SL4B orientation. So we're going to have a little overview of SL4B, the importance of economic development and the role of SL4B. A few examples of SL4B projects, and we're gonna go over some of the budget bylaws and a little bit of the background. So the SL4B Corporation's role is to promote the retention, expansion of development in the city of Sugar Land and enhance the quality of life opportunities in the city as well. And so here you'll see. Okay, there we go. My bad. So it was created in 1995 with the Corporation Act of 1979, and the board has 7 members. We have Kurt as our president, Steve Bezekny as our vice president, and we also have Alan Goodrich, Mary Ryder, and then we have 3 council appointed members, which is Stuart Jacobson, Suzanne Watley, and William Ferguson. And everybody must be residents. The terms are 2 years with a maximum of 3 terms. And in the last year, we generated over 142 million in economic development funding since the creation of the corporation. And the SL4B corporation receives 1/4 cent of sales tax to use for economic development projects and quality of life projects. Okay, here we go. So the purpose of the SL4B is to promote and assist in the development activities and quality of life of the city, and the power to expend the tax proceeds, the financial transaction powers. And here you're gonna see the economic development cycle, which highlights the importance of primary jobs and destination venues and how those create the demand for hotel and retail supporting services. And it all just turns into a circle of life of how the city functions and continues to grow. And some other information here is the board members do have to do the Open Meeting Acts training and the Public Information Act training. So you do have to do it once per term. If you haven't done it, let us know, and we'll also follow up with you as well to make sure you get those certificates completed for city clerk. And here are some of the eligible projects that can create primary jobs. So the sales tax created by SL4B can be used for these projects that promote the economic development and cultivate the quality of life in our community. And the Development Corporation Act for the sales type B sales tax revenue can be used to fund these projects under a type A rules, which here you'll see some manufacturing industrial facilities, research and development facilities, and also job training, call centers, warehouses, and regional and national corporate headquarter facilities. Now, primary jobs is defined by a job that is available for a company, which a majority of the products or services of that company are ultimately exported to regional, statewide, national, or industrial markets, infusing those dollars into the local economy. And the average annual salary for a primary job is now $61,240,000. And this was lowered in September to match the state's level of and that would help us be a little bit more competitive regionally, but also be a better partner to our businesses whenever they're making these incentive agreements. And this was approved by SLDC. And here are some of the quality of life projects that the 4B is eligible to do. So this can be to pay for land or buildings, equipment, facilities, and targeted infrastructure improvements that are going towards professional and amateur sports, destination venues such as tourism and entertainment facilities, and also public parks. And we can also do some restaurant concessions, parking facilities, and related street and water improvements. And to promote and develop new and expanded business enterprises that also create primary jobs, the type B can fund public safety facilities, recycling facilities, street and road and related improvements, and also the demolition of existing structures and general municipally owned improvements. So this could be maintenance or operating costs related to projects. Okay. And the type B corporation is also allowed to spend 10% of the revenue on marketing and promotional expenditures. So this could be for advertisements can publicize the city. And here you'll see some of the articles that the city of Sugar Land 4B related projects were in the news this past year. So we have the power plant, the Lake Point Plaza, the revitalization grant plug and play, and some Credo packaging expansion as well. And these are some of the projects that have been completed using SL4B funding. And this is the Sugarland Town Square, Constellation Field, the Lifestyle Center revitalization at First Colony Mall, the shade structure, and here you'll see the Brazos pump track at the Brazos River track, the Brazos River Park. And the fund grant that we just kind of went over the workshop for the next batch. And the commercial revitalization grant that was approved in September. And another very important part is the quality of life, and a lot of our residents love our parks. So the SL4B Corporation is allowed to make improvements to parks. So here you'll see that we've done improvements at Lost Creek, Oyster Creek, the First Colony Athletic Park, and also we did some wayfinding and signage improvements. So if you didn't realize that those signs were funded by SL4B. And the festival site parking, and also a lot of improvements at Mayfield Park. It's a really nice park. If you haven't been there, they really made it a special place for that community. And we've also funded street and right of way improvements. Questions?
Thanks, Anna. All right, now we'll move on. Last item, election of officers, Sugarland Corporation, consideration of an action on election of president and vice president for terms ending September 30th, 2025. And Anna, still yours.
So in December of 2023, we last elected Kurt Kirchhoff as our as our president, and Steve Bezekny as the vice president. So now the president is who presides at all the board meetings, performs all the duties and bylaws of the board, and the president can appoint directors or other persons to serve on other committees as well and make recommendations to the board. And the vice president performs the duties of the president if the president is absent or unable to or refuses to act, and any other duties as assigned by the board. So if there's not any questions, I can turn it over to President Kirchhoff.
Are any of the acting officers term limited at this point? I'm not looking at them. So they could serve again in the same capacity?
Yeah, and the term for the president and vice president is only 1 year.
Okay.
Nominations?
What do you guys want? You guys want to stay or?
Because you're doing a great job.
No, we actually talked about it earlier.
I nominate Kurt.
You kind of like the idea, if everybody's agreeable, is president just serve 2 terms, because then you're getting kind of a groove and you kind of know what you're doing, and then roll over.
So I'm not the president, I'm sorry, but I saw Steve nominate you for president. I would second, or Alan wants a second.
I second.
All in favor?
Give me a.
I oppose, it won't matter. So
I'd like to nominate Steve as vice president.
I'll second that one. All in favor?
Aye.
Great. All right. Motion to join the meeting, adjourn the meeting.
So moved.
All in favor? Aye. Thanks.